Good morning, I'm Julio Saenz along with Mauricio Riveros. Today we'll meet Kimberly Jones, the new CEO of Butler Till.
We hope you will be inspired.
Celebrating leaders in Rochester's unique and vibrant business community, we'll meet entrepreneurs whose passion and perseverance have helped push through life's challenges. Join us as we share their stories and journeys to success. It's time to be inspired.
Kimberly, thank you very much for being today in Be Inspired, a show that we designed to inspire our community, to interview people like you who have been in business, developing initiatives. So let's learn a little bit more about who is Kimberly Jones.
Great, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for including me in this. So who is Kimberly Jones? I think first and foremost, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a CEO of a fantastic business here in Rochester. I'm an athlete, so I guess it's hard to pick a single word. But in my professional life, I'm very lucky to be the president and CEO of Butler Till, which is a progressive, results-driven marketing agency here in town.
Wow, that's amazing. Let's go a little bit back.
Sure.
You came, where you were born, what happened? How did you end in Rochester?
Go all the way back, okay.
Take it back.
So I actually grew up as an Army brat, so I moved around quite a bit, which I credit as shaping a lot of my viewpoints on the world, and probably what gave me the inspiration and the ability, once I graduated from undergrad from the University of Texas, to have the independence to move to New York City on my own. I always wanted to have a career in advertising. So at that point in time, I went to work for what was then the largest advertising agency in the world, which was McCann Erickson. That's also where I happened to meet my husband, who happened to be from Rochester, New York. And so once we decided that we were going to make a go of things and start a life together, he said, how about we make that life in Rochester? And I didn't know much about Rochester, but we started visiting here in the springtime, which I don't think was an accident on his part, not in the dead of winter or February as it is right now. And I just fell in love with the community. So I've had some great experiences in Rochester. I went to work first for what is now known as Partners in Napier. It was the Wolf Group back then. I also spent some time on the client side, as we call it, at Bausch & Lomb. So I led consumer communications for Bausch & Lomb for some time, and it was that time period where I actually went back to school to get my MBA from the University of Rochester Simon School of Business. Somewhere along the line, I developed a relationship with Sue Butler and Tracy Till, who were the founders of Butler Till. And so I've had the pleasure of knowing them in a lot of different capacities as a partner, because we shared some clients when I was at the other agency, and then actually as a client. So they were one of my agencies when I was at Bausch & Lomb. So I got to learn firsthand what an amazing client experience it was to work with Butler Till. So when I got that call from Tracy to say, hey, how about you come over and actually work for us instead of just with us, I jumped at the opportunity. And that was 10 years, and I'm not looking back.
Fantastic. And Butler Till is a very progressive company. We were talking about that before the show. And you're the CEO, but you're not necessarily the owner. You share that with the rest of the team. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Right. I think it's a very unique ownership model. So actually for the last 5 years, we have been 100% employee owned. So I have to credit Sue and Tracy for really having a thoughtful approach to their succession plan. They didn't want to leave their company in the hands of somebody else. They really wanted to reward the employees who helped them achieve all of their success. So instead of selling the company, as they could have and as many other founders do, they took the progressive step to become an ESOP. So we are 100% employee owned, which means anybody who works at Butler Till for more than 1,000 hours has a little bit of a piece of the success of the company. People ask me a lot about how the ESOP has affected the culture, and I think in our case, the culture and the ESOP have become one-on-one. I don't think our ESOP would have been successful if we didn't already have the culture that was ripe for that type of ownership model. So we already had a highly collaborative, highly engaged workforce, and I think layering on the ESOP made it that much stronger. So what an ESOP means to us is we have an unprecedented level of transparency. So we share with all of our employees, our employee owners, the success of the company and the failures. And so we're able to have open conversations about what we can do together to improve things. And I think employees want that level of engagement and the opportunity to really affect the results of the business that they work for.
Have you seen any other changes since the transition to the employee ownership?
I think our employees have become much more financially astute, so they want to understand how to read a profit and loss statement, for example, because they want to know the financial health of the company. And they're more proactive in bringing forth ideas on how we can continue to make the company better. So I think it's created a model that helps the employees feel more invested, which in turn gets passed along to our clients. So the level of both employee satisfaction and client satisfaction has continued to go up over time. And I attribute the ESOP to part of that.
Every time that I interview CEOs like you, one of the things that I love is to really understand what is the ultimate goal. What's the vision that you guys have for your organization?
We've spent a lot of time talking about that exact topic recently, and we've reflected on what our vision is. So our purpose, as it's defined, is to create connections and make a difference. So that's kind of why we get up every morning and do what we do. And what we mean by that is we feel an obligation to create connections, not only on behalf of our clients, with our clients' customers and with brands and the consumers, but also creating connections with one another and our partners and our clients and the communities that we live, but also making a difference. So making a difference in our clients' business for sure, but also making a difference in our business and the lives of one another.
I know Butler Till is actually a pretty large company now, and one of my favorite questions to ask a business of the size and stature of yours is, when do you decide to go regional or even national when you've had so much success here in the area?
That's a great question. I'm trying to reflect back on whether or not it was ever a specifically conscious decision. I think we've benefited a lot from having long tenured clients and clients that we've established really great relationships with, not only from a company perspective. So for example, Bausch & Lomb here locally has been a client of ours for almost 20 years. Now, the type of work that we do for Bausch & Lomb and even the people that we do it for has changed drastically in a 20-year span. But developing those relationships, whether it continues to be with Bausch & Lomb or the clients that have gone to other companies that want to continue to do work with us. So that's really how we've grown outside of Rochester.
So organically, in a way.
Much of our growth has been organic, because clients, I think, love working with us. And so as their own careers progress and they go other places, they want to take us with them.
What's your strategy to be able to ensure your clients that your product that you will deliver will be always that great product?
Right, we always want to exceed our clients' expectations. So first, it's setting the right expectations in the first place, I think, and having an open, honest dialogue about our clients' business needs and how they define success, because every client is a little bit different. And yes, business results are always on the top of the list, but how you work with one another and the experience working with Butler Till is often a close second. So really having those open conversations on the onset of a new relationship, I find is pretty critical. And then making sure that you have the discipline to continually check back in to say, how are we doing? Are there ways that we could get better collectively or individually? And really make sure that we have a pulse on the health of every single one of our accounts.
I like the word that you used there, which is discipline. And retaining customers and having the time to follow up is really a commitment you have to make.
Right.
What are some tips you would give to our business owners who may be listening as far as, I guess, retention and maintaining those relationships with customers?
Right, because it's always much less expensive to keep the clients that you have than to go out and find new ones. And like I said with the example from Bausch & Lomb, we're very, very fortunate to have a number of clients that we've had for a decade or longer. And I think part of it is what I just said, taking the time to develop those relationships and making sure that you understand what success looks like for your client's business and for the individuals. Checking back in regularly and always staying in front of the client's business needs. So being really proactive. Our industry in particular, when you think about marketing as a whole, has changed so drastically. So being on the forefront of that and pushing your clients a little bit, not just waiting to react to what they might think that they need, but helping them along in that process so you don't become obsolete. So even though we've got many clients that we've worked with for a long time, I think if you looked at the nature of those relationships, they look drastically different from year 1 to year 10, 11, 12, and so on.
Social media, all these new technology implementation of things that are happening out there. What's the approach that your organization have around that?
Oh wow, it's a huge part of our business. So we think about our business in terms of people, because we're at the end of the day a professional services business. It all comes down to people, but also process and technology. And technology has, of course, increased over time. And our data and analytics team, for example, is one of the fastest growing departments within the agency. So continually looking at our technology roadmap, not only to run our business better, but to have the tools to help our clients be more successful too, is really important.
Well, thank you, Kimberly. We'll be back with more after these messages. When would you advise a business owner, a small business owner, to seek help, not just do their marketing and advertising themselves?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that there is a size component, but I think people should always seek help, you know, always ask the question. And I always encourage people to call me, and if we're not the right fit for you, whether you're too small or it's not the right industry or we don't provide the right services, the great thing about Rochester is that there are a lot of other companies that do, and I'm always happy to make connections, because I think that's one of the great benefits of Rochester, is that we have a genuine desire to kind of help each other.
One of the things that are fundamental in people like you are be able to understand the entire big picture. And my question is going in the direction of mentors, people who have influence in your life. You have received an award and great things, and congratulations for all. But there are always people who have been fundamental in your life. So this is a great opportunity in the TV to say thank you to them, and I'm sure there are many of them.
Right.
But if you can highlight one example of mentors.
Sue Butler and Tracy Till. Hands down, I don't even have to think about that answer. Those two women have been hugely influential in my life. I wouldn't be sitting here today without them. I feel a tremendous amount of gratitude that they trusted me with their baby, which is Butler Till. And both of them in different ways have mentored me almost over the course of 20 years. And so Sue Butler, if you ever meet her, she's very buttoned up, she's very disciplined, she understands process and finance and how to provide the best service to your clients. Tracy is the visionary, she's the one that always pushes me, she's always the one that's saying, why not? When I say, oh, I'm not sure we should do that, why not? Why can't we do that? Of course we can do that. And so I think you need both of that in your life as mentors. So I got it out of two different people. I feel very fortunate that I had that yin and yang. But I think mentorship and having somebody that's going to be an advocate for you and sponsor you in your career development is really important for any professional.
And we talk a lot about change on this program because it's unavoidable, especially in the business world. What are some of the ways that technology is changing your business?
I think technology in large part is changing our business for the better. So in our work, the nature of our work, especially as it relates to media planning and buying, it's highly technical work. It's a lot of detail work. So we're able to leverage technology today to take a lot of that burden off of the individuals so that they can reinvest their time and greater kind of value add activities, more strategic activities, allowing them to pursue other aspects of their professional passions. So I think that's, you know, from using technology from an efficiency standpoint and making very detailed work easier and more accessible is one way that it's affected Butler Till.
And that's it's wonderful because there is a this combination and this balance that you mentioned before between technology and people and relationships, and I think that's fundamental to combine those two aspects.
Right.
Now let's go one step further and talk a little bit about the Kimberly Jones mom and the kids and the family.
Yeah.
How you bring that balance, be running a, such a large organization and be able to be mom and be a wife and be able to achieve that. There is a lot of moms there watching right now.
Right.
How do you do it?
That's a great question, and I was asked a question recently about why more women today aren't CEOs, and I think part of it is the perception of what a CEO should be. And I think hopefully I can demonstrate that a CEO doesn't have to be an individual that works consistently more than 60 hours a week and is never home for their kids and isn't able to participate in your children's sports activities and other extracurriculars and has to have, you know, a stay-at-home spouse, because that's the only way you can manage the family dynamics. My husband has a great career himself. We do have a lot of support, but I'm trying to, I think, reimagine what a CEO has to be. So we're very lucky and fortunate that we've been able to find balance. I think living in Rochester is part of that, to be frank with you. So not having to deal with kind of the daily grind of long commutes and being able to achieve that work-life balance. I think Rochester is a great place to do that.
And building off that same topic, what are some tips for folks on how you stay organized? Is there a killer app that you use? Is there
I'm still working on it.
Okay. Do you use the paper? How do you organize your day? Just some general tips around that.
That is a great question, and I'm always looking for those hacks as well. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. I'm pretty old school when it comes to organizing, so I have my trusty little notebook that I carry with me everywhere, and I am a to-do list freak. So I continue to just write old-fashioned paper and pencil because I don't trust myself to write anything in pen, and I kind of keep myself organized. And on that sheet of paper too, it's a combination of all of my commitments, not just work commitments. So I keep my family commitments, I have my work commitments, I have a lot of nonprofit commitments, and so that's how life is today. You can't really silo it into these, 3 or more different chunks. It's all together, and so on any given day, you're juggling a number of different responsibilities.
So we live in a great community, and you mentioned Rochester. Rochester has experienced a lot of changes in these past 10, 14 years. It's amazing to see the great progress and things that have happened. What is your perspective about Rochester, present and future?
I'm very bullish on Rochester, and in some ways I think we're getting back to our entrepreneurial roots. So I see this resurgence downtown, which we're going to be a part of pretty soon, and building downtown our new headquarter building. I see a lot of new startups that are focused on technology and innovation. So there's less reliance on the big companies to kind of keep our economy afloat. There's more diversity, which I'm very inspired by, and I think that Rochester has a very bright future.
I assume you, because you do have clients out of town and everything else, you mentioned being from Texas, which I love, San Antonio, where you mentioned you were from.
Yeah.
How do you see us as far compared to other cities? We talked about the business climate, the environment for startups.
Yeah.
Do you work with some startups in the area?
We don't work directly with any startups that I can think of, not in a formal capacity at least, although we've consulted with several over the past few years. I think Rochester has so much to offer from a talent perspective. We've got great higher education, and so I'm very optimistic about having a continuous talent pool that can feed the growth of our business and others. I think that's what helps us be competitive, along with the lower cost of living to other markets like New York City. I think the fact that Rochester is relatively accessible to New York City, New Jersey, Chicago, also makes it easier to do business out of town.
And Kimberly, that links to the typical question that we ask business owners, talking about community, giving back to community. What are the values that your organization have in terms of supporting the broad community in Rochester?
It's actually one of our kind of deep values. So right now, for example, Butler Till is all about the American Heart Association Heart Walk. So I am lucky enough to be on the executive committee for that. And so we're really encouraging not only all of our employee owners to get out there and walk, but also the rest of the community. That's just one example. We, as a company, actually give our employees 3 days paid leave to give back to the community and nonprofits. So whether that's volunteer hours, whether that's going to spend time maybe with an aged relative that's in a nursing home, going to spend time at their children's school volunteering in the classroom. So we really think that that's part not only of what makes Butler Till so special, but makes the experience of working at Butler Till so unique.
Kimberly, thank you very much. Thank you for being a great leader. It's clear in these 20 minutes we have learned a lot of and a very successful, intelligent leader. Thank you for being part of this community. Thank you for giving back to the community. And I just leave the program with something that for me is fundamental. Thank you for being able to keep that cohesive team of owners of a company that will have a great future. I'm sure that in the future we'll have you back here. But again, thank you.
I would love
Thank
to.
you so
Thank you
much.
so
Very
much.
much. Coming up next week on Be Inspired, we'll meet Miguel Millan, owner of Mobility 101. To watch today's episode and the complete interviews of our guests, go to rochesterfirst.com/beinspired. For more great talk with Rochester's entrepreneurs, listen to Poder 97.1, Saturdays at 9 a.m. For Mauricio Riveros, I'm Julio Saenz. We'll see you next week on Be Inspired.